Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, hi, I'm Julie. I do everything from book reviews to tarot, and if you're returning, I'm so glad I haven't scared you off. Now, I don't usually sound like Kermit the Frog, but I am a little sick today. This review might be a little bit shorter than some of the other ones, but I'm nonetheless super excited to talk about it. Today we are discussing Mexican Gothic by Silvia Moreno-Garcia. This book was actually selected for review by my lovely patron, Jazz. So if you would like to have a say in what we cover on this channel, you can explore that and many other benefits on my Patreon, link in the description. Now, Mexican Gothic is set in 1950s Mexico, and it follows our protagonist, Naomis Father, a 22-year-old socialite whose father is the head of a major paint company. Naomi is definitely characterized as being a bit flighty. When we begin the novel, she has dreams of a career in anthropology, as that's what she's currently studying in university, but we're given reason to believe that this isn't going to be a long-lasting aspiration. She's hopped between many different career paths before, and her father thinks that she needs to start taking her life a little bit more seriously, i.e., in terms of this day, find a husband. But Naomi is definitely not one to be told what to do. She has grander dreams and thinks she's destined for something great in life. And then one day, and I mean this is one day soon because we're about 8 pages into the novel at this point, Naomi's father receives a telegram from her newlywed cousin, Catalina, basically saying that the house that she shares with her husband and his family is haunted, she's being tormented by ghosts, and she's pleading that Naomi be the one to come rescue her from this place. Prior to getting Naomi involved in the situation, Naomi's father and Catalina's new husband, Virgil, have had some correspondence where Naomi's father basically told Virgil, like, I raised Catalina, I know she's not prone to delusion like this. I believe she should see a psychiatrist here in Mexico City. I believe that she should see some professional help, and Virgil does not want to do this. He says that she shouldn't be away from her new family now, and believes that Catalina should be trusted in his care alone. And Naomi's father is very distrusting of Virgil. They barely know the man. They only basically met him at Catalina's wedding, and they know that he at one point had fortune, but Naomi's father believes that all to be squandered and that he is in fact after Catalina's own money and is using her for that purpose. So Naomi's father tells Naomi, like, listen, I think it's best for you to go check in on Catalina. You know, this will prove to me that you're able to fulfill a task, you're able to stick to something and make sure she's all right. And if you do this, I'll pay for you to go to grad school and pay for you to really pursue this dream of anthropology. And that is what I think ultimately convinces Naomi to go after her cousin, even though she does deeply care for her, and we learn throughout the book that they had a very strong connection in childhood. Naomi is definitely out to prove something to her father from the outset of the book. So Naomi is set upon the quest of visiting Catalina and making sure everything's all right. And once we arrive at Virgil's estate with his family, known as High Place, is where things really start to pick up in the book. And that happens pretty early on. Let me check what page we actually get to High Place. About page 20 for me, out of just over 300, is when they arrive at High Place, and things get progressively stranger from there. Naomi at first just feels kind of curtailed by the family's kind of oppressive rules. No one talks at dinner. Everyone pretty much, you know, they don't really talk at all, almost. They live in almost a constant state of silence and only really communicate when they need to. She's not really allowed to speak Spanish in the house because all of the family are originated from England. They came over here in the late 1880s to build their mining dynasty. They ran out of money in England, so they tried to strike it new in Mexico, and were successful for a good period of time until the Mexican Revolution. They lost a lot of miners to some suspicious circumstances too after some strikes, and they've lost a lot of their fortunes since. But so this very old English family feels very stifling to Naomi at first. Let me give you like a rundown of the key players. So we have Virgil and Catalina, who I discussed. Then Virgil's father is the patriarch of the family. His name is Howard Doyle. He's an ancient man, probably in his 80s or 90s, and was responsible for the family coming over to Mexico from England. Then we have Howard's niece, Florence, and her son, Francis. Those are all the residents of High Place. And Noemi pretty much finds an adversary in everyone except, obviously, Catalina and Francis. She does find a friendship with Francis, who ends up being around her age and is one of the kinder people in this house, and eventually does speak Spanish to her, and she finds camaraderie with him. But otherwise, she feels very much stifled by this family. And it goes from that to suddenly she begins sleepwalking again. She has strange dreams, and she finds herself in a very similar position to, to what Catalina described in her telegram. But, she feels like she can't leave this place. Out of obligation to her cousin, or maybe there's another force at play, she ends up excusing it as obligation to her cousin, but we learn later that there might be other forces at play here. I was reading up the praise section for this book, and The Guardian calls this book, well, I'm actually going to read the praise out loud. It's Lovecraft meets the Brontes in Latin America. After a slow burn start, Mexican Gothic gets seriously weird. And I was thinking to myself, where's the slow burn here? The inciting incident happens in page 8. Things get progressively weirder with this family as Noemi is able to go into town for brief moments. She gathers some lore about this family, and they've been beset by tragedy after tragedy, and people generally think that the family's cursed, but they've had tragedies go on, and I get that it's getting weirder and weirder, but I was like, I don't know if it's a slow burn. Like, maybe I was used to books being a slower burn. I'm used to, I'll put them up on the screen, the ones that I experienced that were the slowest of burns. But then I got to around page 200, and I'm not going to get into spoilers, like major ones, but I will tell you the book spirals into out of control, supernatural weirdness, crazy stuff around that part, and it just gets so, you might have thought you knew what was going on. I bet you didn't, and when you find out what was going on really, and the true backstory behind this family, I had a couple reactions. One of them was ew, one of them was gross, but not in the writing. It was a lot to do with the motif of mushrooms, decay, and rot. You'll find that that's really important to this family's lore. I will say, pay close attention to the dreams that Noemi begins to have prior to the spiral that I just mentioned. You'll see that her dreams hold potential clues to what might be actually behind this family and their wealth of past years and their history. Side note, this book does have a good deal of body horror, so that does not come until again later in the book. But if you are uncomfortable with the idea of things growing from the skin, that is a common image employed. Mushrooms growing from the skin, flowers growing from the skin. Very common imagery in this book. And this is a side note, but I just want to explain to you that how much I appreciate the art on the inside cover. It really harkens back to those 1950s style horror films, thriller films. Moreno-Garcia really does a good job of making this a true-to-life Gothic tale, especially through the lens of Catalina and Noemi. We learn that a lot of their time together growing up was through Catalina telling Noemi fairy tales, and that Catalina very much still kind of romanticized life in that way, as told in the fairy tales, and we kind of see the juxtaposition of those happy, clean tales with, this much more darker, seedy tale as it descends more and more into the depravity of this family and the coldness of this family, the history of this family. I honestly don't really have too many criticisms of this book. From the outset, I didn't really like Noemi's interactions with her father, where he kind of tells the audience that she's all about frivolity and good times and won't make a serious commitment. But throughout the book, we are shown that that is kind of her way, if not through concrete experience, then through her interactions with others, particularly how her relationship with the youngest of the family at High Place evolves. Her relationship with Francis. She starts out with like very light, flirty, fun banter with him. And then as their relationship deepens and as she needs an ally in this family to eventually help her and her cousin hopefully escape, her connection with Francis deepens, and she's able to really let her guard down and have, serious conversations with him, have a serious connection with him, and learn to trust him. And we do see a lot of her character growth, even through her interactions with others. Overall, I'm really glad to have read this. Thank you again to Jazz for recommending this one. Especially as my first horror book, I liked it a lot better than I'd expected. Body horror and everything aside, I mean, at least I can say that this book is incredibly descriptive, and Moreno-Garcia really has a grasp on painting a picture with words, for better or worse, depending on your queasiness levels. But yeah, I really enjoyed this one. I'm gonna give it a 9 out of 10. And if you've read it, let me know what you think in the comments. And if you want to suggest the next book, be sure to check out my Patreon, or you can even leave me a suggestion in the comments. I'm always open to hearing about new books, new things. So yeah, let me know what your thoughts. And thanks, guys. Be sure to like and subscribe. I almost forgot to say that. Poor YouTuber of me. But yeah, be sure to like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.